Tonight on Newsnight Scotland, it's changed the face of the American energy market and seen prices plummet. It's fracking, and today the government here was told to get on with it in the UK too. But we hear from one expert who says, just don't do it. Good evening. Fracking, simply put, it's a technique to recover gas and oil from shale rock. And it's being recovered in such quantities in some parts of the world that it's boosted worldwide gas supplies and in America especially dramatically cut costs to industry and households. It's also provided the Americans with security of supply for decades at least. But it is controversial. Does it? Should it have a future here? Andrew Black reports.
That was an extremely positive response.
Today, the Scottish Government took a major step forward in its drive to make the country a renewable energy leader. At an industry event in Aberdeen, SNP Energy Minister Fergus Ewing announced the approval of plans for the world's largest commercial wave farm.
We want to get on with it. We've got tremendous wave and tidal potential in Scotland, and we've moved way beyond the thinking stage. We've now got devices which are beyond prototype, which have been grid connected, which are starting to demonstrate their capacity to generate electricity and connect into the grid. So we're on the verge of making great progress on both wave and tidal, and therefore we want to show strong leadership for these nascent technologies.
The 40 megawatt development off the northwest coast of Lewis could power nearly 30,000 homes. But could there be another, more controversial form of revolutionary energy production on the UK horizon? Hydraulic fracturing, better known as fracking, is a technique to recover gas and oil from shale rock. The process involves drilling down before a high-pressure water mixture is directed at the rock to release the gas inside. Its use in the US has seen domestic gas prices cut in half and could offer gas security to North America for the next 100 years. Now the Institute of Directors says the UK government, which has approved the use of fracking, should get on with its own shale gas revolution. In a report out today, the Institute says shale gas has the potential to meet a third of the UK's gas demand and could attract investment of up to £3.7 billion, supporting 74,000 jobs. The report also said the need to import gas from other countries could be reduced, and that shale gas could generate significant tax revenue. In West Lothian lies a unique landscape home to several rare species of plants and animals. It also serves as the remnants of a once proud industry that years ago was the envy of the world. These giant man-made formations are byproduct of a pioneering process developed in the mid-1800s to extract oil from shale. It resulted in Scotland becoming one of the world's biggest oil-producing nations. So what's the potential of Scotland to be at the forefront of this new generation of shale energy technology?
Companies are very keen to do it because they can make a lot of money, they think, from it. But the communities where they're proposing it, like in Falkirk, are up in arms. There's been 1,500 objections in Falkirk to the proposals there. Therefore, they've got an uphill struggle. And I don't honestly think the Scottish Government is very keen. We've seen it cooling its enthusiasm towards this technology, which of course is also highly polluting in terms of the climate. I mean, if you want to damage the climate, you would frack for gas and you'd get out coal bed methane, but I thought we were meant to be protecting the climate.
And Rob Edwards also says questions have to be asked about the Institute of Directors report.
Well, I think the most important thing about this report is to look at who funded it, and it's funded by Quadrilla, which is the main English company that wants to frack in England. So the fact that it is highly enthusiastic and predicts a lot of benefits is not surprising. Of course it would.
This here is the crack.
This what caused that crack?
That was the earthquake. That was the earth tremor that we had.
You think?
No, I know it was.
But there are still concerns about fracking. It was temporarily banned in the UK after it was blamed for earth tremors in Lancashire. And protests have also sprung up amid concern that dangerous chemicals can sometimes find their way into drinking water. A government review, though, has concluded that fracking is safe if adequately monitored. Right now, the Scottish Government looks focused on renewable energy. Today it also announced Scotland would be the first part of the UK to have a dedicated fund for the wave energy sector. When it comes to fracking, SNP ministers say they recognise the need for a diverse energy mix. They do point out, though, that there are no plans currently in place for shale gas operations in Scotland.
Well, I'm joined now from London by Corin Taylor, who wrote the Institute of Directors report on shale gas, which is published today, and from Edinburgh by Dr. Marion Lloyd-Smith, who's Senior Advisor to the Australian National Toxics Network and has served on the United Nations Expert Group on Climate Change and Chemicals. Well, Corin Taylor, let's take local matters first. The potential you seem to see in Scotland is for something slightly, which may or may not involve fracking. Just explain that.
That's right. I mean, it's shale gas that would primarily we would need hydraulic fracturing to get that out. But coal bed methane is probably the resource with the most potential in Scotland. At the moment, that has been produced at commercial rates so far this year without needing to be hydraulically fractured. But the bigger point is about threefold benefit, really. It's about jobs, it's about tax revenues, and it's about reducing imports. It's not about replacing renewables. We're going to need to see renewables as well, but it's about reducing the amount that we rely on imported energy.
But you would accept, would you, that the coal bed methane extraction is from the point of view, a pollution point of view, as risky, if not more risky, than fracking itself?
Well, no, actually, to do a coal bed methane operation, a company will need to get permission from 4 different government agencies. So it will need permission from the Health and Safety Executive, the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Energy and Climate Change, and also the local Mineral Planning Authority as well.
Right. Now, Marion Lloyd-Smith, do you think that some of the problems we've seen in the Blackpool area, in perhaps even more so in the United States, are because this top technology is being not implemented properly, or do you think it's inherently wrong to use it at all?
It's certainly an inherently dangerous technology, and it's not just us saying that. It's the United Nations Environment Programme, who late last year put out a global alert about this technology, and they said it will have unavoidable environmental impacts. Some of them will occur if the technology is not used correctly, but others will occur if the technology is used correctly, and that is our experience in Australia.
Right, but I mean, given that in America this has now become absolutely enormous, I mean, people are talking about a long-term, one-off productivity increase in the US economy, giving it a relative advantage simply because of shale oil and fracking for gas. So it's not going to not happen.
I think what we need to do is actually look at the long-term costs, and I think if we really looked at both the short-term problems of air pollution, water contamination, the human health impacts we're already seeing in Australia, and then add to that the long-term liability of the wells that will leak in the future, then I think any sensible cost-benefit analysis would really say, look, this industry is not the industry we want. It's certainly not the industry Australians want, and from the people I've been talking to here in the UK and Scotland, it isn't the industry that they want.
All right. Well, Corin Taylor, I should mention there actually are some projects in Scotland. There's one programme of exploratory drilling near Airth in the Forth Valley. There was also some wells drilled in Dumfries and Galloway, and in fact there were recently some complaints claiming there were leaks from that. Now, I've been told by the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency tonight that they've investigated that and they found in fact there was no methane leaks. Why are you as the IOD so desperately keen on this?
Well, I think if you look at the development of the North Sea, which of course took place around Aberdeen back in the 1970s, that generated more than enough oil to meet our needs for 25 years, met almost all of our gas needs for over 30 years. Also, the North Sea industry...
But what is the potential? I mean, looking at the figures you produced, it looked more like maybe 5 years, because the extraction rates are so low. It looked more like 5 years to me that you could get from the estimates you had of what was in the UK.
Well, actually, if you look at the gas in place numbers estimated by the different companies, and then you apply a very low recovery factor to that of around 10%, then we would have enough gas to meet a third of our needs for quite a few years. And that's what our projections have suggested, that shale gas at peak production at the end of the 2020s could meet about a third of our gas needs, reducing imports.
Now, why did you? I mean, this is not the first time this has happened, but I'm not sure if it's the first time it's happened. If you are, as the IOD, so keen in this, why didn't you just produce this report? Why did you accept sponsorship from the company which everyone knows is the main company that was involved in what happened at Blackpool and has got its reputation from that?
Well, there's a number of things to say there. Firstly, the report and its conclusions are ours alone. Secondly, we do make recommendations to overcome the main barriers to shale gas production, but we don't let the industry off the hook at all. We do make recommendations for what government should be doing, but also we make clear that the industry needs to be 100% transparent about its operations, not just in terms of the chemicals, but also water use and truck movements.
All right, Marion Lloyd-Smith, I mean, your UN committee might be against this, but to my knowledge, not very many national governments are. I think the French have said they're not very keen on it, haven't they? But is there any other national government that's actually said we won't have this?
I think all governments are very tempted by the dollars and by the promise of jobs, which don't really materialise. But the reality is, again, in my own country, New South Wales, they are beginning to understand the problem. We already have...
sorry, I was to interrupt you. We are running out of time. But you see, it's all very well saying the jobs don't materialise. I don't think anyone could look at the effect on the US energy market and say that the United States has not received a huge boost from shale gas. I mean, they're even at the moment considering turning ports on the East Coast that were built to import the stuff into ports to export the stuff. So it's not a very good argument to say it's not having a beneficial economic effect, because it clearly is.
I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that it doesn't benefit local communities. Most of the workers are technical expertise from outside. And we don't really see, if you talk to consumers in America, it hasn't benefited them. It's no cheaper to heat your house with gas in America than it was 5 years ago. So if someone's getting the benefit, it's not the average person in the street. And I think that's what we've got to look at.
All right.
Who's getting the benefit? Who's paying the cost?
All right. I'm sorry, Corin Tilley, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both very much indeed.